Five, four, three, two, one. We are live. I got D Style Boxing, the OG, in the house. What's going on, D Style?
Hey, I'm chilling, man. I mean, only real men drink Modelos, so here I am, enjoying my beer. You know what I mean?
There it is.
This
Modelo.
this episode is brought to you by Modelo, everybody.
Modelo. I always go the wrong way with the camera. Modelo tonight. And look, I want to show you this. Remember when Corona was rolling these bad boys out with the fighters on them?
Yes.
I got that Deontay Wilder Corona Extra.
Oh, wow.
That's when he was I get the camera wrong all the time. 37-0 with 36 knockouts on the back. World champion.
Okay. All right. Yeah. There was an Austin Trout one. There was, I think,
Canelo.
Yeah.
Julio Cesar Chavez. Our boy, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Remember the pink underwear in the living room? Moving the living room furniture out of there. Jabbing. You got to use the jab. You got to use the jab.
I don't need to drive to the gym to work with Freddie Roach. Just move the sofa out of the way. You know what I mean? We'll do it.
Remember him jumping in the pool with the pink underwear, and his dad's just shaking his head, like, "What is going on with my son?"
That was straight out of a sitcom, man. Unbelievable.
He wishes Canelo was his son now, huh?
I'm pretty sure. He might be. I don't know. I don't know if Chavez Jr. is the son.
So D-Style is in the house, man. And look, first of all, shout out to Wheelchair Mansion in the house. I was actually hitting it up with him earlier. Run PMC in the house too. What's up, Run PMC? And look, man, first and foremost, I want to give my props to you. Respect. I always wanted to, and it's good to have you on the channel. I've been on your channel a bunch of times, and you were the first person to reach out to me when I first joined the YTBC, like 2010. So that was good for me because as a guy just getting going, the reason I came on YouTube was to meet other people to talk boxing to. It wasn't to just give my opinions on YouTube and then have people comment below. I wanted to actually interact with people. So I always appreciate that you were the first person to reach out to me and invite me to Rope-A-Dope Radio and the post-fight shows and all that. And then years later, getting me back into this, because when I saw you and G-Funky doing your thing, I wanted to come back on. It gave me the itch again. So I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. At the end of the day, it's one of those things that that was just normal back then.
It was.
Like it honestly was. Like I remember I did my first video and nobody watched it. It stayed at 0 for a couple of days, and then it hit a 1 and it was blood boxing. And then he reached out, you know what I mean? And then that's the way it is.
Everybody showed love back then.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate. My first video did like 800 or something like that. And then a bunch of people reached out to me, but you were the first one. And then it was like that first week you said, come on the post-fight show. And I think it was like Marquez Vasquez. I don't remember what fight it was. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll come on. I was super nervous, but I came on there and met some good friends. And I know y'all a decade later, man. So cheers.
Yeah, cheers, man. To the old Rope-A-Dope Radio days. And then there was Hellstorm Sports and all that.
Here we are again. And rest in peace. We were talking about this earlier with my man Wheelchair Mansion. Rest in peace to my boy 916 Chris, who was one of my favorite people on here. One of my favorite people. I talk to that guy a lot. So rest in peace to him, man. Great guy. But let's get this popping. What do you think about the Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul fight? I just wanted to get this out there. I haven't talked about it at all. I've had a couple people in the comment section say, give your thoughts on this. So I'll give my thoughts after you, but I don't like, look, Floyd's Floyd. He's easy to figure out. We know he's going to go after the money, but it's everything around it that kind of bothers me, particularly the media, particularly how they're covering this fight versus how they've covered other fights, such as Taylor versus Ramirez. So give your thoughts on pretty much the whole circus, and we'll bounce it around.
Let me tell you something, man. I did the same thing I did when the McGregor thing happened, even though I thought that was as bad as it could get. I was wrong, right? So I'm going to stop saying it can't get any worse than this. So I'm just going to stop. You know what I mean? But I'm like, you know what? Let me look at some just random videos. It's just people's thoughts on like non-boxing fans, right? Thoughts on this fight. Just let me gauge where they're at. But so I watched this video. This it looked like a teenage kid, and he was very confidently like looking at the camera with a lot of confidence, saying that Logan Paul. All right, get this. He has an ability that most of us don't have to turn his dreams into reality. You know, he could make things happen, and he started saying things like, it's more likely to beat Floyd than it is to have 20 million subscribers on YouTube. Oh, it's more likely, and these are the things that he accomplished. And not only did he accomplish that, he also he managed to get his brother that he has a touch. I think he said like the touch of Midas. Like he even gave that to his brother. His brother. Okay. A shout out to Mr. Boxing today. That even
Another OG.
yeah, he could give his brother all the clout or whatever it is. So he has this innate ability, right, to visualize and make that visualization, despite of everybody laughing around him, a reality. Because imagine telling someone, I'm going to have 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Everybody will laugh at you, right? But he made that happen. And now everyone's laughing at him that he's going to beat Mayweather. Point exactly. But he's going to make this a reality, And now that's one thing. That's a delusional 20-year-old or I probably teenager. When you have a Max Kellerman, when you have a Teddy Atlas trying to break this down as if it's a legitimate fight. Oh, he could use his size. He has a wrestling background, and he can catch Floyd with uppercuts on the inside. And what he needs to do is step to his left and set up the jab and all this other nonsense. It is disturbing. It is disheartening, and because we always hear the mainstream media say, boxing, the reason people don't watch boxing no more is because they don't give us the best versus the best. This is the problem with boxing, right? And they always focus on that one fight. Like right now, like they're probably mad because the Fury Joshua fight didn't happen. So therefore it means all of boxing didn't give us what we want. But Taylor Ramirez is the definition of the best versus the best. The definition of it. That is what everyone claims they've been wanting forever. And they got no coverage. It was on ESPN, by the way. It only benefited them to promote that fight, and they didn't do it. Taylor Ramirez on First Take would have been epic, in my opinion. Taylor could talk some serious trash, and they could have showcased some to people. But it's like the tree in the middle of the forest. If it falls and nobody hears it, it doesn't make a noise.
That's the tough part for me watching this is, people like Kellerman and Teddy Atlas know better. And you watch Teddy Atlas, like seriously, with the straight face, break down a fight that does not need to be broken down. And look at the rules, there's no winner. So what are you breaking down? There's no winner.
Well, you could win by knockout. You stop him.
Yeah, but there's no official winner. So even if you stop the fight, it's still nothing. Even preseason games in the NFL have a winner. I mean, they don't count, but there's a winner. Excuse me. There's a winner. Right? This does not have a winner. Even if Floyd knocks this dude cold, there's no winner. And first of all, shout out my boy Mr. Boxing today too for popping in, man. That's another OG to this and another guy who I need to salute because these are the guys that been doing it. I've been knowing them for a while, like you, and who showed love back in the day. And I showed love back. So it's good to have these communications still going all these years later. So salute. But I just don't understand why what is there to break down? My issue with this is, look, Floyd's retired. He can do what he wants. He's, like I say, he's an easy person to figure out. It's not complex. He wants his money. But when he tells you this is a bank heist, all right, but you still joyously buy the fight, what is this? It's gullible people being taken to the cleaners again. But a part of me is like, look, people like what they want, so just let them like what they want. But then there's another part of me is like, how? Why? Even with, when WWE, there's a script written And we know there's a script written here, but they don't. They think this is real. And they think that maybe Logan Paul can land a shot. Look, if you're 0-1, you have no amateur experience, you fought one time against a gamer and lost, there is no way. There have been serious professional fighters, world champions, who have tried with Floyd and cannot land a punch, a big punch. Did you see what Mosley landed on him in the second round? Mosley landed 2 or 3 of the most hellacious punches I've ever seen on Floyd. Floyd's knees buckled, and somehow he stood tall from those punches and stayed there
Won the
and
rest of
then
the round.
dominated the next 10 rounds. So you're telling me this guy who I'm watching hit the mitts and he's throwing uppercuts from the ground. He's throwing D-style. He's literally throwing uppercuts from the ground. I don't know if you saw that. I don't know if
I
you
don't know.
saw. I was watching ES News with Ellie Seck back, and he's like, "Is this going to be the punch that?" Ellie's like, "Is this going to be the punch that he lands on Floyd to give Floyd his first loss?" And he's throwing an uppercut from the ground.
Man, let me tell you guys something. If Floyd Mayweather, right, if he carries Logan Paul and allows it to go, but allows it to go decision, right?
Well, there's no decision, so it would just go the distance
or the distance. Yeah, you're right. I mean, then what's the point? Why are we even doing it? What's the what's the payoff? What's the lesson to be learned? What's the there's nothing there. This whole thing is stupid, bro. You know, at least with Conor McGregor, at least McGregor was a fighter. Okay. At least McGregor was started in boxing before he got into MMA. So he had some amateur boxing experience. And he was known as one of the best strikers. He wasn't a grappler per se, So there was something there, and he had just finished coming off some dominant wins.
And you had the boxing versus UFC angle that there.
Yeah, you had the boxing versus UFC angle. There was some, the whole some footage of him landing clean shots on Paulie Malignaggi, and you've seen him knock out Aldo in 9 seconds or something crazy like that. So the idea was, his striking is so superior to the UFC guys, you got to put them in there with a boxer because they can't strike with them. You know what I mean?
And real quick,
yeah,
the promotion for that fight was second to none. I mean, the promotion for that fight, as much as we hated it, was incredible. Especially the Toronto promotion that they did, where Conor's trash talk was second to none at that point. There's not really much besides the cap thing. There hasn't been really that much of a build up for this, and I haven't heard the same buzz from nobody's asked me about this fight. Everybody that I know knows I follow boxing. Nobody's asked me about this.
I haven't been asked either. I don't know if that means we're just old. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe the audience for this is a lot younger. I don't know.
Possibly.
But here's the problem here is not Floyd and Paul, but Showtime. Why are they putting this on? It looks so desperate. You know what I mean? It looks desperate as shit. And
Donaire's fight didn't do good numbers last week. It peaked at 217. The last couple of shows they didn't do good ratings. So yeah, they still got to tap into the Floyd audience, I guess.
I guess, you know what I mean? But doesn't that prove that all the people saying, "Oh, but it's giving boxing an extra buzz"? Doesn't that prove it's not giving boxing an extra buzz? Plus we also have to ask ourselves, how much did Haney, Linares, the boxing audience watching that impact, the Donaire fight too? But I don't know, man. I'm not impressed, bro. I'm not impressed with this fight. I'm not looking forward to this at all. And I don't know about you, Calix. There's that feeling, what if Logan Paul lands a clean shot and knocks down Floyd? And how bad would that look?
It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna. You can't look. You can't set up punch if you're a guy who has no real boxing. You just can't set up punches against a guy I don't care if Floyd's 80. Floyd will always have some sort of innate boxing ability. Still today, I would pick Floyd against a lot of big name fighters. I just would. as much as we can talk bad about the competition he faced and how he didn't fight the top guys while he was there, all this stuff, like you would still pick him against pretty much everybody when he was active. But right now, still, like I still feel like if he's training, like I don't think he's really training for this fight, but if he were to do an 8-week training camp, he'd still, even at 60 years old, dude. I think Floyd Mayweather Sr. could beat Logan Paul, and I'm not even joking. I think he could beat Logan Paul. I think Floyd Mayweather Sr. could beat him.
Probably. I mean, let's not forget that an old, washed-up Mosley and De La Hoya were, beating up Shaq. You know what I mean? Like, I think Mosley knocked down Shaq. Okay, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And it looked like they were just having fun in there. It didn't even look like it was a competition to them.
This is pros versus, you're talking about pros versus Joes. Pros versus Joes. Remember that, Joe? That is what this is, but on steroids. I mean, dude, Logan Paul, I can't even believe the odds and they did odds for this. Like Logan Paul, there's no chance. You can't set up a punch against Floyd if you're a rank amateur. So
he's only a 5-1 underdog, bro, right now, I think.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
It's ridiculous, bro. Like you tell me Linares was a bigger underdog than against Haney?
And I wonder if they pulled the odds since this week because there's no official winner. So how do you have odds if there's no official winner? I wonder if they pulled it off the board because these are odds I was looking at.
It could be, the odds could be based on if there's a knockout, which,
right.
I mean, the casino are licking their chops right now. Like, you know what I mean? Because it goes to decision, nobody wins. You know what I mean?
I'll give my official prediction on this. Look, Floyd's going to carry him for about 3 or 4 rounds and then get tired of it and just finish him, right? I think that's what's going to happen. It's not going to last as long as Conor did. I think it's only an 8-round fight. So I think he's going to wait till about halfway through and just finish it. And I think he's going to lightly let him down. Like it's not going to be, he knows he can't hurt this. You can't hurt this guy. He's a rank amateur. It's going to look really bad. So just let's lightly knock him out. Right. And then here's my other prediction, because this is what's building. We all know it. Jake Paul announced he's fighting Tyron Woodley. So after the Woodley fight, they're building this fight. It's going to be Floyd versus Jake Paul. It's going to be the new epic fight.
What if Woodley wins?
What if who wins?
What if Woodley knocks out Jake Paul or something?
I don't think he will, but let's say what's going to happen on Saturday night, tomorrow night, is Jake Paul's going to enter the ring after the fight to console his brother and say, I need to avenge this loss. And then him and Floyd are going to get face to face and they're going to start building this fight for after. I'm telling you, that's what this is all building towards. The epic, the climax of this is Floyd versus Jake Paul. He's going to try to avenge his brother.
You don't think Woodley could beat Jake Paul?
I think it's going to be tough. I think he's already shown what he can do against UFC fighters. And Jake Paul is too much of a cash cow at this point. As sad as that sounds, that sounds terribly sad.
But not too. He's shown what he could do against
Askren, Nate Robinson.
Askren's not a striker. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's important too. And by the way, neither is Woodley really. Like Woodley was striking against other non-strikers and knocking them out, but I don't know. Maybe you're right though. Because I know MMA fans are mad right now. They really want the UFC fighter to knock out, Jake Paul.
Yep. Shout out Wheelchair Manager, Run PMC, Tracy Boxer Girl, our girl Tracy Boxer Girl, Marilu Ajero. Shout out to everybody in the chat. And look, I'm telling you, that's what this is leading to. The climax is Mayweather versus Jake Paul. And look, we can talk about Logan Paul, Jake Paul. The thing about Jake Paul is he does have some decent boxing skill. Like he is what you would see. He's not an elite boxer. That's not what I'm saying. But he is what you see from a guy a normal professional boxer was 3 or 4 fights in. All right. He does have legit boxing skills. He'll never be on that elite level. That's not what I'm saying. He'll never be even on the contender level if we're talking about regular boxers and putting him on that scale. However, he is a cash cow. They're going to be careful with him They're not going to put him in there with anybody who's going to run this train, stop this train, and he's going to end up fighting Mayweather. I'm telling you, this is where this all ends. He's not going to fight any active boxer.
We need Woodley to knock the dude out and just end it.
It's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen.
We need Woodley to take him down and choke him out or something. You know?
But as I said on your show, the problem for the Paul brothers, Jake Paul in particular, because I think Logan Paul's ending is going to be tomorrow. Jake Paul, his downfall is going to be he's going to run into the wrong fighter at a gym, on the street, even with the bodyguards around. He's going to run into a James Toney type, somebody like that, or the Diaz brothers, one of those guys, somebody like that, cut from that cloth, who says, dude, I don't care who you are. I don't care about this circus. You're not walking in here. You're not bringing that in here. He's going to get knocked out in the street or something. He's going to get tagged in the street, and it's going to come crumbling down, because you can't carry on like this in the boxing world. You just can't.
Or especially when he's doing it with MMA fighters, right? I mean, you're talking about two combat sports that you're trying to play with. But I'll say this. You know how, like, you know, we all know Deontay Wilder is an Olympian, okay? Deontay Wilder is a bronze medalist, okay? But when Deontay Wilder boxes against a Fury or even against Ortiz, he looks real sloppy at times. You know what I mean? But that's because that's how they're making him look. You know what I mean? How bad is Floyd going to make this guy look? Like, because one thing to hit, he already looks horrible hitting the mitts. He looked horrible against KSI. Like, you know, compared to the fighters we're used to watching, like high-level boxers. You know what I mean? I think it's going to look really bad. Like, I think we're going to have moments where he's going to, like look really bad. And to respond to Raider, I mean, say what you want, but Floyd Mayweather was fighting professional boxers that Floyd was hitting 40% of the time, but that means they were making a miss 60% of the time. Like, say what you want about Robert Guerrero. He knows how to roll with shots and move. Like, you know what I mean? These guys he was fighting know how to counter punch better. So it limits the punch placement. Floyd has to be more picky with his shots, for example, but I saw Floyd hurt Cotto, for example. You know what I mean? But again, Cotto's an experienced fighter. It's a lot harder to take somebody like that out. You know what I mean? So the thing with Logan Paul, I think it's going to be a sitting duck, is what I think. And you don't have to have the most devastating power to hurt somebody. Like, you just don't. You know what I mean? If Logan Paul is not rolling with the shots somewhat, like taking away some of the steam or anticipating the shot or whatever it is, right? And he's getting hit flush time and time again. And then looking at this horrible stamina he had in the last fight, I think Floyd's going to stop him I think it's an 8-round fight, right?
Yeah. He's going to go halfway, D-style, and then he's stopping.
Yeah, he's going to stop him like 6 or 7, I think.
He's what you do to a nice girl who you don't like anymore. That's what he's going to do to Logan Paul. He's going to gently place him on. He's going to gently let him down, right? Gently. He's not going to separate this guy from his senses. Like, you can't do that to a pedestrian. As much trash as the guy talks, like, you can't do that. Like, you can't send this guy to the hospital. You know, just imagine how bad that looks. And not only that, it stops this whole gravy train. If a former fighter puts a YouTuber in the hospital with, like, let's say this guy has some sort of like a Billy Joe Saunders injury and he has to have surgery and whatnot. I know.
Well,
that's how we look at it. That's how we look at it.
Floyd is going to break his orbital bone. He might. I guess he could injure it, bruise it, but so maybe you're right, you know. But shout out to everybody in the chat. Hey, hit the like button, guys. Hit the like button.
Hit that like button.
But here's all I want to say, man. I know Floyd is a very unlikable guy, and I know people want to. They're hoping Paul lands a lucky punch and knocks him out. Believe it or not, I don't want that to happen, because that'll make boxing look really, really bad. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. So
either way, but on that topic, real quick, is I don't think it's going to hurt or help it. I think it's just going to be neutral. I think this is just something we have to deal with and go through right now. And I think eventually, like everything, is going to fizzle out, and boxing is going to be boxing, as it always is. Um, so I just think it's not going to, I think people are overplaying that aspect of it. It's not going to hurt it. It's not going to help it. It's just frustrating for us boxing fans to have to live through it and have to answer questions about it, have to see all this stuff going on. But it's also frustrating, like I was saying earlier, it's frustrating when the real fighters who are at the top of their game right now. And look, I know the market is the market, and I don't want to talk bad about the market. Look, they're capitalizing on the market. There's a bunch of gullible people out there who want to see Floyd lose to a YouTuber. But it's just frustrating when ESPN, they have something invested in Taylor versus Ramirez and they barely promote it. And then you come on First Take and you have Stephen A. and Max Kellerman, I hear, like literally breaking down Floyd versus Logan Paul. When Max knows like this guy can't set up punches, and he knows that this is nothing to see. So,
and you know what? Like, they didn't even cover Chocolatito Estrada, the rematch. Okay, another example of the best fight in the best. Oh, but those are little guys. Okay, fine, but it's whatever. But that's all I wanted to say about this. Just talking about this fight is embarrassing in my opinion for boxing fans. But what we have to talk about is the elephant in the room. But I think we did its due.
It is an elephant in the room. And just to recap, I don't think it's going to help or hurt boxing. I think Floyd's going to carry him. I do think it'll do numbers. My prediction is somewhere between 1 and 1.5. I don't know. I hope not. I hope
you know what's possible? I could totally see Floyd telling him, like, look, I'm going to carry you and just go down. I'm going to hit you like with a body shot somewhere in the fifth and just go down, or I'm going to beat the fuck out of you. Okay. And then that's possible.
I think so too. I think this whole thing is scripted. I think
tension fight, like, that'll take a dive to me, brother. The tension fight.
All of it is scripted all the way, I'm telling you, to his brother, Jake Paul, coming in the ring after. I think this is where this is going. It's eventually going to be Mayweather versus Jake Paul, I need to avenge my brother and all this stuff after he beats Woodley. And then Mayweather will be there for the Jake Paul versus Woodley fight. And this is where this is going, D-Style. And this, unfortunately, is going to be around for a while. It's going to be around for a while. We just have to deal with that. That's my other prediction. It's going to be here for a while. Even though I'm hearing rumors that Triller isn't exactly as hot as they've been saying. And I do worry that Teofimo Lopez's fight is going to be a dud as far as the numbers.
But I think they're going to fake the numbers anyway. They're going to tell people they're 1.5 million.
True. But if you paid a $6 million,
where's my money?
If you paid a $6 million site fee, you can't just do 200 to 300 in pay-per-view numbers. You got to do at least $500,000 or something to break even. So good luck to them, man. I was enjoying the pay-per-view model being gone. I like the DAZN model and seeing Canelo with my subscription. So I don't know, man. It's just frustrating. It's a huge soap opera. That's right. Let's get was listening to people who clearly don't follow by about. Yeah, that's what we get. You deal with the casuals who say stuff, getting hit flush and clean without being able to roll with punches, slip. With limited boxing muscle memory experience, recipe for good old fashioned. That's right. That's right. He doesn't have any boxing instinct. Like there's no boxing instinct there. There are things, and it's not just with boxing, with life. You have to experience things.
Does Floyd laugh at him? Do you think he's gonna make a mess and like laugh? Like you know what I mean? Like not smile, but be like you know what I mean? Because if he was making Canelo miss and then looking at the rope that Canelo hit and stuff like that. If he was, and I know it's a younger Floyd, but if he was like talking about the game with the commentators that, you know, who's going to win the game while he's dodging punches, just imagine what he's going to do with this dude.
Yeah, I agree. So that's all I have on it, man, is we had to talk about it. It's in the news. I got a bunch of comments on it. So there it is. The official prediction is he'll carry him to the middle rounds, let him down slightly. Jake Paul enter the ring after. They'll build up that fight. And I think it'll do like 1 to 1.5, something like that. And then we keep on with this circus. But I just wanted to get it out there that I'm frustrated with the boxing media and how they've covered this fight as a serious fight. But I guess they have to do that. I guess they have to make the suits happy, and we just have to deal with that. We just have to deal with this, man. It's just something we have to deal with. But the positive thing is, June is an active month for boxing. May was a great month for boxing. There's a lot going. July, this is a hot summer. July, we got a big heavyweight fight. August, we got Pacquiao coming up. September, hopefully, we have Undisputed at 168. So, but while we're talking about Mayweather, let's shift to Pacquiao. I just mentioned Pacquiao in August. What do you think, man? Were you happy? I haven't talked to you about this officially since this fight was announced. When this fight was announced, that's the happiest I've been since a fight was announced in a while. Just me personally. It's me personally. Because I like seeing these guys come back to try to add to their legacy as long as they're still somewhat fresh, still adding to their career. It's not like a Roy Jones thing, right? Where we saw Roy hang around too long. And by the way, I'm hearing rumors, Roy's saying he wants to come back at cruiserweight. I don't know if you saw that. He said Roy said,
stop.
No, Roy, seriously, this is serious. Roy did an interview 2 days ago and said he was inspired by Phil Mickelson winning a PGA event in his 50s.
Nobody's punching Phil Mickelson, okay? Like, what? Sit down, brother.
Remember the Occupy Roy Jones movement I started like 10 years ago? It was not successful at all. God. It was not successful. But look, I saw this interview and I was like, he literally said Phil inspired him by winning that PGA event. So the one thing he didn't do when he was active was win a cruiserweight title. That was the one that always evaded.
Because you got knocked the fuck out when you cried. That's why. Just stop.
I love Roy, man, but it's God. And I like him as a commentator too. When DAZN had him and Carl Froch together, that was beautiful. That was for the Canelo fight. That was beautiful. They did great work together. But Roy needs to stop. He needs to stop. God, if you're gonna stick around, do what you did with Tyson. But I guess he didn't get paid for that enough from what he said in the interview.
Is he going to do it against Bradis, Arena, Igorov? Like, who's he going to fight, bro? Because he's been getting knocked out by Russians. So
this is my comment right here. It's like, I love you, but no. I love you, but no. Why?
Bro, like this cannot be, like, come on, bro. What do you mean you were inspired?
I met Roy a bunch of times. He's from down here in the Gulf Coast. Pensacola is my second home. So we know Roy down here. Like, Roy is a guy who is around everybody, and he's a regular dude, hunts, fishes, and people like him. People love him down here, and I'm one of those people, but it's just frustrating to watch him go on and on. Like, if he would have, I understand why he didn't, because there was still a lot we thought left in the tank at that point, but if he would have stopped after he won that heavyweight title, or if he would have defended that heavyweight title against another heavyweight fighter, and then
Tyson
that was the ending of a loss or something like that, we can understand it. But
I mean, he should have fought Tyson.
If he ended his career D-style after winning that heavyweight title, I mean, is he? What is he? Like top 20 all time?
I mean, I still think I still rank him the same because he still accomplished what he accomplished. But, well, yeah, he still accomplished what he accomplished, you know, but.
He did, but there's all that stuff after, and that's an interesting discussion in itself.
Yeah, but like, don't forget. I mean, Robinson lost a lot of fights late in his career. If Pacquiao gets knocked out by Spence, is that really going to affect Pacquiao's career?
No, it doesn't. However, when it continues and continues and continues, that's when it's
inspiration, brother.
That's when it's an issue because
Pacquiao
is the dichotomy, right? Is the dichotomy because Bernard Hopkins continued on with his career and continued. So my point is, if you add to Hopkins' legacy later in his career, how could you not like drop Roy a couple levels?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, he didn't help his career, that's for sure. But what I'm saying is I still consider Roy one of the best of all time. You know what I mean? I still consider prime Roy can beat just about anybody. You know what I mean? Like
All
that's the way
time,
it
right?
is. Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah,
time.
yeah. I mean, there's some that I think will take him, but overall, I mean, he's a heartbeat. But stop being inspired. Imagine if Pacquiao wins, the dude's gonna want to stay another 10 years. Like it's gonna be like, oh, Pacquiao inspired me. You know, like bro, just stop, just stop, okay? For the love of God, bro.
He's gonna be 60 fighting.
Like you know what? Who he could box? I mean, I think it's a shame Chavez is boxing him instead of, but he could have boxed like Silva or like
Yeah.
somebody like that, a Victor Balfour or like boxing MMA guys. You know, do that instead. You know, that's what I think he should do. To be honest.
Shout out to the people in the chat: Steven 4722, Mike TOH, G Funk Funky Boxing, Run PMC, No Paul, Boxalanos, my boy. Congratulations. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got. Oh, let's see what G Funky's got. I'm all over in the chat. The form Roy was in for the Richard Hall fight was insane. And look, Virgil Hill, Roy's got some bangers, man. Roy's got some bangers.
What?
Orlay HCP family, my boy, G Funky. Shout out G Funky and hit the subscribe button for D Style. Hit the subscribe button for G Funky as well. Great dudes, great channel. HCP Nation up in the house. I should have worn my HCP shirt tonight.
I got the old school HCP, which I still like, but
yeah, but no, man. I kind of got sidetracked there, but Roy needs to give it up. He needs to give it up. I mean, I go back and watch 90s Roy, and I'm like, and I attended several of Roy's fights back then, and there was nothing like it. Great ring entrances. No, he was untouchable. Barely lost rounds, and that guy was untouchable in his prime.
but we need a
Absolutely
remix of the song though.
We
Like,
do.
remember when you got knocked out in Russia? You must have forgot. You know what I mean? Like we need a new version of it. You know what I mean? When
Antonio
Joe Kulisaki was beating you with your own moves, you must have forgot. You know, like when B Hop bored us to death, but still beat you. You must have forgot. You know, we need a new version of this, brother. Like remember when you went down under, and then you still went down under against Dan Green. You must have forgot. Like it's he must have forgot. You know.
No, Paul, this is a real alcohol right here, like 5% or whatever. Usually, I drink the Zimas because they're a little, you know, a little girly, and I could deal with it better. But now I got the Modelo and the Heineken tonight. And look, let me show y'all again. I got the Deontay Wilder Corona Extra right there. That's the Deontay Wilder version.
That's the I'm a nice guy.
That was
I could have found you in the streets, but I'm a nice guy.
That was Wilder at 37-0 with 36 knockouts, heavyweight world champion. That was before Fury turned Wilder into an excuse maker, unfortunately.
Well, who did you say that
I'm
to?
still looking forward to that third fight. Still looking forward to it.
Who did you say that to? I'm a nice guy. I could have found you. I could have done it outside, but I'm a nice guy. Never talk about my daughter again.
Bomb squad. But look, Pacquiao. What do you think? Pacquiao versus Errol Spence. I love the fight. Love it. I love the fact that Pacquiao once again is testing himself. Love it. I know my boy G Funky doesn't like it, but I love the fight. I love the fact that he keeps doing this, man. He keeps testing himself, trying to add to his legacy. And just think, D-Style, just think if he pulls this off. What do you think about the fight? And what does Pacquiao need to do if he wants to win this fight?
Well, first, my reaction to the fight when the fight was announced, I honestly thought I thought it was one of those fake, like fan made, like posters. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I noticed like at Manny Pacquiao, like on Twitter, and then I was like, okay, it's a fake account. I click on it, like 1 million, followers or whatever. It has a blue check mark, and then I'm like, holy fuck. Like this shit's official. Like, you know what I mean? Because Manny's not a troll. He's not gonna troll like that. You know, he doesn't have a history. Like if Ryan Garcia would have posted that, I would have been like, okay, bro, whatever. You know what I mean? But like, when Manny posted that, my first thought was, and I mean this wholeheartedly, okay, before we talk about the fight and what we think about the fight, Manny is literally giving everything to the sport already. Like he's already giving everything he can give. You know what I mean? It guys that have had a quarter of his success could easily go into the boxing Hall of Fame. Could easily be considered one of the best to do it in their divisions, right? But we're talking about a fighter that gave a lot to the sport already. Has come back from getting knocked out, came back like you know what I mean, just rose from the ashes several times, and has had these tremendous victories. And let's be honest, has ended his career fighting giants. For him, these guys are giants. I don't care what anybody says. Manny Pacquiao fighting welterweights is equivalent to Floyd Mayweather fighting middleweights. Okay, that's the equivalence of it. Okay, the dude's fighting giants right now, and Errol Spence is a giant. For him, that's a giant. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. That's just the truth. Manny Pacquiao walks around at welterweight. I think he just doesn't fight at 140 or something because he doesn't want to bother losing. Like, he doesn't want to have like a camp like that. You know what I mean? He wants to be comfortable. He's old school in that way, but he's already giving us a lot. Like, Manny could have announced, instead of announcing this fight, could have announced his retirement. And I would have said, "Hey man, salute to you, brother. That Thurman fight was a good way to go out. Hey, thank you for everything you've done for boxing and for being a great ambassador for boxing. Hey, peace out. The best to you." You know what I mean? And I'll be honest, when he was trying to make the McGregor fight, I wasn't against that. I was like, you know what, Manny, he could get an easy one. You know what I mean? Give him an easy one, whatever. You know what I mean? I didn't have an issue with it, to be honest. But at the end of the day, we all know what happened with McGregor, so that I think they couldn't sell it anymore. And I think, I don't know what it was. I don't know. Manny just said, you know what, just fuck it. I'm just going to go for it. But they feel they see something
right here. Convince you that the Pacquiao versus Crawford talks were serious. Like, after Pacquiao versus Errol Spence was signed, I said to myself, he was serious about wanting to fight Terrence Crawford. I think. And I think Bob Arum said, I couldn't do this fight in the States. That's what he said in an interview with Ellie Seckback last week. He was like, there wasn't enough money here. We wanted to do it in Dubai because there was money out there and we couldn't get it done. And poor Terrence Crawford is sitting over there in Top Rank Island, just doing nothing at 34 years old. Unfortunately, arguably the most talented fighter in the world, not doing anything. But I think he wanted to make that fight.
My intuition tells me I agree with you. I think he did try to make the Crawford fight, and maybe Arum's right. Maybe circumstances were in the way or something. But Arum's always been cheap, bro. You know what I mean? If he doesn't see the upside on one of his fighters beating Manny Pacquiao and getting that belt and how much leverage that would give his fighter moving forward, then I don't know what to tell him. You know what I mean? But I do believe that as far as how I feel about the fight, at first, I remember thinking, I think Spence should take it. But you know what, man? I think there's something the Pacquiao camp sees. I don't know what it is, or maybe they think they see it, but it's not there. I don't know.
You think it was a Porter fight?
It could be the Porter fight.
He had issues with Porter's aggressiveness coming forward.
And that was pre-car crash.
Output.
And that was before the car crash. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's just the truth. So, I mean, it could be. It could be maybe he beat Danny Garcia and he beat him handily, but
I've always felt Danny Garcia was overvalued, and we talked about that last year, especially at 147.
I think Herrera beat him. I think Herrera beat him. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So at the end of the day, I think there's something Manny sees there. And I know for anyone who wants to say, but Manny's old. And look, he just beat Keith Thurman. Like, yeah, it was like 2 years ago. I get that. Okay. But he beat Keith Thurman, guys. You know what I mean? And he knocked him down and hurt him to the body. Yeah, you could bring up the age, but I've seen older fighters win fights. Okay. So it's not like impossible in that sense. So is it I'm not saying I'm picking Pacquiao or anything, but what I'm saying is I think it's going to be more competitive than people think. That's what I think.
I think the official odds right now, starting out the gate, were 3-1 for Spence, but that you already know how betting odds work. That's gonna slim down. I'm guessing by
If you're
fight
betting
time
on
it'll be more
Pacquiao, do it
like 2 to
now.
1. Yeah, I'm thinking it'll be more to 2 to 1 Spence favorite on fight night. But this is the year of the underdog. Valdez beating Burchelt. Nonito winning last week. There have been several underdogs this year. I mean, Elvis Rodriguez upset last week. He was a heavy favorite. Heavy favorite. There have been several big upsets this year. Could 2021 be the year of the dog, the
I
underdog?
mean, it's possible. This could be the year of the dog, the underdog.
And it
That's
might have
possible.
something to do with the inactivity of 2020, right? You have a lot of people who've been inactive, hopping back in the ring for the first time in 2021, haven't been as active with top opposition. So maybe these top guys are ripe for a picking.
And let's ask the only guy that's fought both of them, at least that I know of, that fought both of them, Chris Algieri. I saw a video of his. He feels Spence is going to win because of the size, but he did say Pacquiao has bricks on his hands. Like he hits hard. Like it's a different type of power than Spence. Like Spence is big and heavy, but Pacquiao's punches are like harder. You know what I mean? So, and given how conservative Floyd fought Manny, I think that's true. And given how he knocked down Thurman in a way that I never really saw anybody else do. Porter didn't knock down Thurman.
Mm-hmm.
Garcia didn't. He hit Thurman, didn't knock him down. Just think about that. You know what I mean? So I do believe, what makes it interesting is the fact that they're both southpaws, but I think David Diaz is the last southpaw, if I'm not mistaken, that Manny's fought. And he dominated David Diaz. You know what I mean? Now, granted, I'm not comparing David Diaz to Spence, and that was a much younger Pacquiao on top of that. I get that, but he's fought southpaws before. Yeah, he's
Remember
fought
David
southpaws.
Diaz after the fight, he said, I thought Freddie was in the ring with him with a knife stabbing me. He said he saw multiple Mannies in there.
Yeah.
But
he knocked down he knocked down Mosley. Not even Canelo knocked down Mosley.
Yeah. I just keep going back to that Porter fight. How I wouldn't say he was exposed at all, but that was a close fight, and there was a close fight due to Porter's offensive aggression and keeping Spence at bay on his heels. Spence wasn't walking forward because Spence is a big welterweight. I think Pacquiao has the ability to turn Spence, turn. Smaller fighter, quicker fighter can turn him even at this age. Keep him at bay. And not only that, it's the feints. It's the constant feints. I was watching footage of somebody was breaking down footage of Pacquiao versus Broner. And Broner was just having and Broner's Broner, right? And once again, we don't want to compare Broner to Spence, but the issue you have with fighting Pacquiao is the constant feints. Constant feint. He continues to keep you on your heels. If he's not punching, he's feinting. He's always giving you something to look at and something to deal with.
Yeah, he's like the thing with Pacquiao is his feet are so fast. He's almost like gliding. Like he's kind of like it almost seems like he's on a hoverboard when he's in front of you, and at any moment you could just like boom, he throws a straight right or he throws a jab, and he might throw the left or he might not, or he might feint it, and then if you buy the feint, then he throws the left. Like like there's a lot of variations, I think, with what Manny could do, and people need to remember, like the last time Manny lost was against Floyd Mayweather. One has to ask themselves, do you think Spence could have beaten that Mayweather? Like, so can we really judge it based off of that? I don't think so. You know what I mean? Marquez knocked him out, but guess what? Marquez was very familiar with him and had already fought him for
42 rounds.
Bro, like if you're not familiar by then, when are you going to be familiar? Okay. Lastly, I sense some fear from Spence fans. Okay, and I'll explain. Okay, I keep hearing people, there's no Vada. Oh no, man, he's getting juice. Like you're really scared of a 42-year-old like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Horn. I mean, I guess I forgot about that, but I feel Pacquiao won that fight. Like, you know what I mean? Like he was battering Horn around. Like Horn had some
Oh
rounds.
yeah,
Like give him, like don't get me wrong, it was close. It was closer than I believe ESPN said it
yeah.
was, in my opinion.
That was
Um,
a robbery. That was
but
a robbery.
by the way, Teddy Atlas was scored like 4 or 5 even rounds. Gave Horn 4 rounds, and it says no way you could have won it. What do you mean?
Teddy
Okay,
Teddy loved those even rounds. Loved them.
4 even rounds. Like, are you out of your mind, bro? Like, and then you have the audacity, but you didn't win. But nonetheless, okay, fine. But here's the thing, right? Manny is gonna, obviously they're gonna have a game plan.
Uh-huh.
I don't think they would have taken this unless they felt confident. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean they're gonna win, but what it does mean is that you got to give this old man a chance. That's what I
Is he
think.
still with Freddie? Bless you. Is he still with Freddie?
Yeah,
I thought so. Well, that's.
I mean, I don't
he's
know if Freddie is like his primary guy, but he's around. You know what I mean? Like,
hopefully, Boo Boy is not the primary guy, right?
no, boo boy, boo boy.
But I like this comment right here. I take it as from our boy Beeb. Spence hasn't scored a knockdown since 2018. His last 3 fights went the distance. Danny Garcia won 4 rounds against Spence. Pacquiao Spence goes the distance. I like that comment. And that's why I see this as an interesting fight because if Pacquiao starts off quick with the offensive ability, scores rounds, puts some rounds in the bank early, we got ourselves a fight. We got ourselves a close fight going the distance. So that's got to be Pacquiao's game plan, in my opinion, is to come out quick, come out strong.
Not quick.
Yeah, come out strong, put this guy on his heels, put some rounds in the bank. You can't worry about 42 years old, the older legs, maybe falling apart and getting older late in the fight. You can't worry about that, man. Come out fast against this guy. Try to put some rounds in the bank because this is going the distance, in my opinion. This is going the
I mean,
distance.
it can. I think the one thing that Spence is good at is the body attack. Okay, yeah. And now, granted, I'm going to say this, but like nobody likes getting hit to the body. By the way, I like when people go like, "Man, he doesn't like getting hit to the body." Like, yeah, that's like nobody. Okay, but I mean, people underestimate how Marquez would use the body shot to set up some shots upstairs. You know what I mean? But I do question Spence's defense a little bit. You know, like I think this might be the fastest guy Spence has ever fought.
Do you question his if he's a great counter puncher? Because I think he's a guy who does both well, offense and defense. But there's a difference between guys who can do both well and guys who can do both well seamlessly at the same time and counter. Because defense is one thing.
I think Spence is a fundamentals guy. He comes in with a nice jab. I think he's more of a lead guy, in my opinion. When he was trying to like box Cal Brook early in the fight, it wasn't working out for him that well. But then he got aggressive, and that's how he broke down Cal Brook.
He does have a dog in him.
Yeah. So I do think the way I kind of see the fight is like some competitive but slow, like I think the first 2-3 rounds are going to be slow as shit. I really do. You know what I mean? Man is going to be very cautious because Spence is a big guy. Spence is going to be cautious with Pacquiao. Wants to feel him out a little bit. And then I do think Spence is going to start to apply pressure to try to get Manny to the ropes, the corner, right? He might even have some success doing that. But I think Manny is going to circle out of the ropes, the corner, start landing combinations on Spence, and then the fireworks are going to start, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's going to tell the tale. But let me just say this, man. Manny Pacquiao is a once-in-a-generation fighter. You know what I mean? And you just can't count out a guy like that. You just can't. You know? We've seen Spence, and Spence is a good fighter, but he hasn't proven to be like a once-in-a-generation fighter yet. He might be. I mean, you never know. Like he might end his career, and we're talking about him in even a higher regard to now. But at the moment, you know, I just got to take it for face value. You know what I mean?
And I wanted to follow up on that point in a minute. But first, I want to address this question. Should Pacquiao fight at 135 pounds? Good question. I don't think so because I think at this point in the game, Pacquiao is, and we talked about this the other day with Donaire. It's tough going to the lower, as you go down further, guys have more punch output. So it's tougher for older guys to deal with that punch output and the stamina, right? So I think that he should stay at 147. I think he deals better with bigger fighters at this point in his career than he would if he stepped down to 135 and fought guys with higher punch output, right? And I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, I'll say this: it's going to be a high output fight, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to start low output, right? And then it's going to increase output because that's how. Isn't that kind of how the Porter fight went? Like I don't remember the early rounds of the Porter Spence fight, but
do you think he would be better suited at 135 at this point? Is the question, because I don't think so. I think he's better suited at 147 at this point.
I don't think not 135 because he hasn't had a camp like that where he needs to lose so much weight. I think he would be better suited at 140. You know what I mean? Like, to be honest with you, if I was Pacquiao and Pacquiao's people, I'd be trying to make a fight with Josh Sater. Like I'm just keeping it real right now. For undisputed 140,
Yeah.
that would have been history, and it's a very winnable fight for Pacquiao, in my opinion.
I was going to ask you if you think he should go up to 160 and try to win in a ninth division. Would that be too crazy? Like, you don't even have to fight the top dog. There, guys. Murata is there in Japan.
Murata's a big puncher, brother. But I think Manny hit his limit at 154.
Ninth. At least try.
No, I get that, but I think he hit his limit. Even he said it. He said, I'll never fight it with that weight class again.
It's like Chocolatito hitting his limit, right?
He would need, like, Manny would literally need, like, a welterweight to go up there and beat one of these big guys. Kind of like, you know, like when Cotto went up and beat Martinez, but Martinez was doable. You know what I mean? And then Cotto being the middleweight champion, really, a lot of these 54 and 47 guys could have challenged Cotto for the middleweight championship. Mm-hmm. Like Manny needs that buffer guy. He needs that. I don't know who that would be, but like somebody, maybe if Lara wins one of these belts or something, like he would need something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In my opinion, because I think that the size alone would be a little too much to overcome. Now, if he beats Spence and then he goes to 160 to challenge one of these guys, I mean, what do you even say? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to stop him from doing it if it's what he wants to do, you know, but I don't think he'll do it, though. I
was always disappointed Mayweather didn't do it.
He should have done it. He should have done it when Martinez was a champion.
Martinez was there.
Especially after the injury.
Martinez
was there. He
had
a wounded animal, brother. And he allowed Cotto to come in and swoop it. You know what I mean?
That was a winnable fight. Shout out to Boxing Historian 206. Who we got in the chat? Bees Nuts 22. Hands of Stone. Run PMC's up in there. Tracy Boxing Girl. Our boy No Paul. Boxalanos. Wheelchair Mansion. Shout out to everybody, man. Floyd ducked Martinez. Now, I always have a rule. Can you necessarily duck a guy not in your division? But, man, he was there.
No, he did duck Paul Williams.
And he could have fought Martinez at 155 for the middleweight title if he wanted to, right?
To be honest with you, Calix, he's fighting the wrong 6'2" Paul. Like the Paul I wanted to fight was Paul Williams. You know what I mean?
That's the fight I wanted to see.
Yeah.
Paul Williams versus Margarito is still one of my favorite. That was an awesome fight at the Home Depot Center.
Who can win a title 160 that could then entice Pacquiao?
I don't know, man.
Like, what if Crawford went up there and won a middleweight title?
You think Murata's too big of a puncher for him? There are things with Murata that he could exploit. Now, Murata's going to fight Triple G in December.
Remember those rumors? Pacquiao Triple G? I remember that was rumored.
Yeah. That would have been too much, man. Triple G is too big. But Martinez was there for Floyd. He was there. It could have happened. Right?
Martinez was there.
And Martinez even said he would come down to 155 for the fight. And it didn't happen.
And we could believe all we want, but Floyd just didn't believe it, you know?
And he came all the way up to 154 to fight Cotto, Mayweather. He came up to the full limit to fight Cotto. He wasn't worried about Cotto at all. Yeah, but 155, one more pound for Martinez? Man.
Martinez just wasn't the same after that injury. And even after that, in the Murray fight, I mean, his knee was definitely bothering him. Like it was so visible, you know.
That
So
happened in the Chavez Jr. fight, right?
yeah, it was in the 12th round. Yeah,
Yeah, man. Shout out to another guy, man. I want to shout out right here is Boxing Wave, man. And
what's up?
another
What's up?
guy, I showed appreciation to D Style earlier. I showed appreciation to my boy, Mr. Boxing today. Boxing Wave's another guy. I just shouted out. A bunch of people were shouting him out in my video yesterday I did on the YTBC community. Go check out that video. But another guy who does positive content, talks boxing, looks straight into the camera, gives you his opinion, and there's nothing, there's no dirt with it. It's just a good opinion and a great channel, man. Great channel. A guy I've been watching for a long time. I don't always comment in the comment section because it gets ugly down there. So people might not know that I'm there, but a guy I've been watching religiously for at least 5 years now, man. So shout out to one of the best to ever do it in the YTBC boxing wave. So appreciate him too. Cheers. Cheers to
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
boxing
cheers,
wave.
brother. Cheers. Hey, if Spence, you know, loses to Pacquiao, though, what do you think his career goes? You know what I mean? Like, what do you think people would just be like, "Hey, man, he lost to a living legend. You know, we keep it moving." You know what I mean?
I don't think they're going to do that.
Remember, I mean, Canelo lost to Floyd, right? I mean, he was a lot younger. I get that, but people were considering Canelo one of the. He was like in the top 10 pound for pound list and stuff like that already. You know, so
Don't you think
is
Canelo
it
had
the
a
end of the road,
bigger
really? Like, you know?
Canelo had a bigger built-in audience, so I think fans were more forgiving to him to bounce back from that. Even though I didn't give him a single round against Floyd, Canelo,
I give
but
him two. I give him two, but
I thought that was a wipeout. But I don't think they're going to be as forgiving for Spence if he were to lose to Pacquiao. And in today's day and age, where guys are fighting maybe twice a year, but once a year, twice a year, it's tougher to bounce back from a loss like that. But on the bright side, if he were to lose to Pacquiao and it's a close fight, you're going to have a rematch, right? You would think. So he'd have the opportunity to bounce back from night and hit that like button as you come in. Please, please, please hit that like button as you come in. But yeah, I just think if he were to lose, I think it's going to be close. And I think there'd be an immediate rematch if that were to happen. And it would be a huge fight, the rematch. So I think he'd have an opportunity to avenge that. But some guys, man, like Prince Nassim Hamed, they lose and the aura just goes away. So is he that type of guy?
well, he would be losing to someone who was the example of just because you lose, it doesn't mean it's over, right? Right? When Manny Pacquiao got knocked out twice early in his career, guess what? He kept pushing. He got better. He improved. You know what I mean? Got knocked out to Marquez. A lot of people counted him out. Guess what? He came back. You know what I mean? Didn't let that bother him. You know, Pacquiao's like that. You know how they say, like, when if you're training a kid, like how to ride a bike, if they fall, you got to get them on the bike right away and keep riding it. You don't like just let it end there because it's going to be stuck in their head. You know, they're going to be scared to ride the bike. Man, he's that guy that gets knocked out. He gets back up and he wants to go at it again. Like, you know what I mean? Like let's go. Like, you know, so I don't think it'll be over for Spence if he loses to Pacquiao.
I don't think so
Personally.
either. Let me throw
Plus,
this out there.
someone will beat Pacquiao and then Spence could beat that person. You know what I mean? Assuming Pacquiao might run for president in the Philippines, but
I want to throw this question out there to you in the chat as well. Generationally, we see fighters weight classes recycle themselves, right? So you have the pound for pound guys from this generation, from the 90s and then early 2000s. They stick around, but then there's these younger lions that come up and then they recycle and fill that void. And then 2010s, you have that. Are we seeing sort of a lack of that right now? And does that mean that these top younger fighters are ripe for the picking for these older guys like Pacquiao to stick around for longer? Like what I'm saying is Errol Spence, is he on notice right now? Like you said, did Pacquiao see something in Errol Spence that this guy's a top dog of this generation, but I think I can beat him. Do you think we're
I don't
struggling to see
know.
that recycling happening right now?
I mean, it is true. Like when an era gets weaker, if an aging dude could like be the top dog. You know what I mean? Like Jersey Joe Walcott had, I forgot how many attempts at the title, and at a later age, ended up winning it. You know what I mean? After Joe Louis had lost,
Hmm.
that was the guy he couldn't beat. You know what I mean? But a lot of guys, Ezra Charles was, up there in age, doing it. I mentioned Walcott, it was up in age doing it. Foreman, who I believe the 90s was a hell of a generation for heavyweights.
Yes.
It just, I don't think you could call that a weak era, the
No.
90s. And yet 44, 45, I forget the exact age. Foreman, we have Mr. Boxing today in the chat. He can let us know. But that Foreman, won the belt. Like we've always had, like, you know what I think it is, Calix? People forget that what this is experience down here, right? And this is like youth, right? And I think it kind of goes like this. And this is when the fighters in their prime.
Hmm.
But even when they're out of their prime, the experience is going up, and they might be losing some speed. They might be losing a little bit of reflexes, but sometimes this makes up for it. You know what I mean? And I'm sure when the fighters here, they kind of wish they had this when they were younger. You know what I mean? So that's why even when the fighters, quote unquote, out of their prime, they're still dangerous, right? That's why Pacquiao's dangerous right now, right? Pacquiao has seen it all, right? There's nothing Spence could bring that Pacquiao's going to say, man, I never seen that before. Pacquiao could bring something Spence never seen before, right? So I don't know if it's like I think that's a true in every generation, to be honest with you. In other words, like when Pacquiao, like when Hopkins, right? Hopkins had his reign, and then he was the old man when he moved up to 175 pounds, right? But he was able to use his tricks of the trade or whatever to beat guys. Like, he was boring us to tears, but we forgave him for it because he was an old man. Like, you know what I mean? So that's how he had to win. And then he went from that to having exciting fights because not by design, but because he was getting hit more by Pascal's, but he was still pulling it off. And I think that's where Pacquiao is right now, personally. I don't think it's like because it's a weak. I think this is a pretty strong era, to be honest with you, talent
You
wise.
do? You think
Yes.
that? Who do you
I'm not
see
calling
as
it the golden age now. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think the talent is weak. What's weak is the matchmaking. What's weak is like these guys are fighting each other. That's
But
weak.
that's my point. Like, is the matchmaking not allowing these younger lions who are super talented
I see
to
what you mean.
showcase their talent and become legends? Like somebody put in the chat, I forgot
Steel
what the
sharpens steel, right? Yeah, I know what you mean.
right. So somebody put in the chat, I forgot exactly what they put, but um, it just seems to me like a Terrence Crawford. That's exactly what they put in the chat. These guys are in their 30s that we're calling young lions now. Like Terrence Crawford, we still see him as a guy who hasn't peaked yet, but he's 34. Like Deontay Wilder's 36.
Yeah.
Where's Errol Spence? He's pushing 30 if he's not 30. So if you have a guy like Terrence Crawford and we see him as young, he's 34, but he's not being allowed to showcase his talent. So at what point does it get to the point
It's
where
it's
we
it's like
don't
this,
have
right?
legendary fighters in this next era because they're not doing what Pacquiao did, what Chocolatito did? Canelo is the only guy I see actively right now going for legacy, fighting 4 or 5 times in a year, right?
Right. No,
Of
I know
this
what you
newer
mean. Like
generation.
it's like we see it in other sports. Like we see guys improve and go and they improve because they go through obstacles in other sports all the time, right? Like you'll see quarterbacks, fresh out of college. They'll have like that first 2 or 3 games where they're on fire, and then they're kind of brought down because coaches have film on them now. But then that allows them to get better, right? To read defenses better, and they process things better and faster, and all that. So it's the same in boxing, right? Like if you're not fighting, each other, right, and improving, if the steel isn't sharpening steel, you could be as talented as you want, but there's no experience there. But
The bar lowers.
But man, let me tell you something. Spence, I think Cal Brooks still had something left when Spence beat him. I think Porter's an underrated fighter. Not as good as Pacquiao though, but he's an underrated
And
fighter.
Porter fights, and Porter is one of those guys who does fight the top.
Yeah, and he's another one that's been sharpening steel and fighting everybody. And Garcia, I think we both kind of have that agreement about him, but it's still a top guy. You know what I mean? So Spence has fought. He hasn't fought, freaking Crawford. You know what I mean? But I think the next big thing, I still think Pacquiao is a top 4, top 3 welterweight in the world today, right now.
I would say he's top 3, right? I mean, you have, in whatever order you want to put it, Crawford, Spence,
and if he beats
Pacquiao.
Spence,
he's number
one to me.
He's number 1. He beat a guy who was in the mix. And,
bro, if he beats Spence, let me go on record right now. If Pacquiao beats Spence, I'm a big Canelo guy, but Pacquiao's number 1 pound for pound. Number 1 pound for pound. You got to give him that if he beats Spence. You have to, in my opinion. You got to give it to him. You know what I mean?
Imagine that. Has there ever been a pound for pound champ at 42? And he's got a shot at it? I don't think so.
Number 1, I don't think. I know Hopkins was up there, like top 5 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Hopkins was ever number 1 consensus.
No, I don't think so either.
Man, I don't know. I mean, Roy Jones is inspired by Mickelson. He might come and do that. What boxer watches golf and they gets inspired by the performance of a 50-year-old? So now I want to come back. Come on, bro.
Hit that like button as you come in. I want you to address this question first. I want to put this up. Manny Pacquiao will be in the top 30 all time if he beats Spence. He might.
He's already top 30.
I think he's there. I think he's there.
Yes.
I think he's already there. But the Tommy Morrison comment, and we'll get back to we bounce around. We'll get back to Pacquiao Spence and give our final thoughts on that. But I want you to address that Tommy Morrison question, because that was one that I was actually thinking about last night when I was thinking about Fury versus Wilder in a weaker era of heavyweights that we're in now. Although we're both very much entertained by what's going on in the heavyweight division right now. I like what's going on with it, but it is a weaker era. But Tommy Morrison, he was a guy I was thinking about. Exactly. That's why I wanted to address this comment when it popped up is, would Tommy Morrison be the top heavyweight in the world right now? And he wasn't even top 5 at that time.
I mean, there wasn't a point in time he was top 5. Like,
man, that was a tough era. That was a tough era.
I'll say this. Man, he like Mercer gave it to him against the ropes, bro.
Yes.
But God damn, I felt bad for him. But I remember watching that in the
Tommy Gunn.
Yeah. But I mean, he couldn't even beat an old Rocky Balboa, bro. No, not saying, but look, I
think he would. I'm going on record.
He'll be a titleist for sure. Well, I think he beats Usyk. He beats Usyk for sure. There's no doubt in my mind he beats Usyk.
He beats Anthony Joshua.
Well, I want to start from. So he'll beat Usyk.
Okay.
He'll beat any of those secondary guys. I think he beats Arreola. I think.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, Andy Ruiz. I think I would favor him over Ruiz, but Ruiz is my boy. But I would have to favor Tommy Morrison. I think he beats Joshua. But here's the but though. Here's the but. Wilder and Joshua would definitely have a shot against him because of the chin. Like if they catch him clean, that dude's going to sleep.
Wilder.
Yeah. Like Fury would have a lot of problems with Morrison, I think. Like he would have a lot of problems with Morrison on the inside, especially. I don't think he could stop that hook forever. You know what I mean? But man, those 3 guys, it's like a cop out, but I would have to see it. You know what I mean? To know. I could say I favor Morrison, but I don't like. I'm not that sure. You know what I mean? But he would be a top 4 easy in this way in this era.
I think a lot of those guys who were on the fringe top 5 of the 90s would be arguably the top guy today. And I'm a Tyson Fury fan, but at the same time, man, I think I would edge Morrison over him. And also, if Andrew Galata got some mental health help, I think Andrew Galata would be the top dog right now.
Hey, he was. I mean, the only thing with yeah, like that's a big but though. That's a big if, like
Right.
because remember he was beating Bo and then
Especially taller fighters, he would have been hitting their knees. He'd have been punching their knees.
he had this obsession with the ball sack, bro. I don't get it, dude. What's the matter
Yeah.
with that guy? He always had a mental breakdown. It was bizarre, bro. How could he be boxing at this high level but have mental breakdowns? How did it not happen in the ring?
But I always have a soft spot in my heart for Galata because Galata Bo was, like I said, the first time I saw Jim Lampley cry. So my daughter's somewhere in the stands. I gotta go get her. So yeah, I mean,
I remember
great
that.
times of the '90s. But look, man, Pacquiao, if he does this, he's already top 30 all time in my opinion. Everybody knows my opinion on Pacquiao. But if he does this,
I
man,
mean,
continues to climb the charts, and it
like he's
just
already the best Asian boxer of all time.
right,
That period. Okay.
right.
Um. So he's already got that down. Um. He's possibly the best boxer of the East. You know what I mean?
Do you
Ever.
think I posed this question on my poll? I got about 300 votes, and I obviously have a pro Pacquiao crowd because it was 97 Pacquiao. But who is the best fighter of this era in the you can
What
either
years?
pick Pacquiao, Mayweather, Klitschko, Bernard Hopkins, Chocolatito. Out of those 5, who would you have picked? And I would pick Pacquiao, but who would you pick of this generation? No wrong answer. No wrong answer. Feel free.
That is tough. That is
I would
tough.
pick Pacquiao. The reason I would
Yeah,
is
me too.
constantly testing them, the achievements, and
It, it's
how
it's not
I
just that.
but before I
Yeah,
before you go, um how I view this as far as legacy and as far as putting people on pound for pound all time list is how difficult is what they did to replicate for future generations. And I look at Pacquiao's resume, and to me, that's tough to replicate. Tough to replicate. As far as what the other guys did, I think it's tougher to replicate than what Klitschko did, what Hopkins did. Although
well,
Hopkins winning 20 straight defenses, how many guys are doing that at this point in the game? 20 plus defenses at middleweight. So all these guys have great achievements. Chocolatito
true.
winning multiple
I just want to know why
championships
you didn't
in
include
multiple weight
Joe
classes.
Calzaghe on the list. You know what I mean?
You know I ain't doing that. But what's your viewpoint on this, and how do you? I guess my question is, how do you
Uh,
view that? Because obviously it's subjective. Everybody has their
of
different
course, of
things.
course, of
A lot of
course.
people weight the record. Unfortunately, I don't do that. But how do you weight it? No
Well,
wrong
look,
answer.
look. Here's what I'll say: everything matters, but not one thing is absolute. If that makes sense, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
record matters, winning and losing matters, but it's not absolute end all be all. You know what I mean? Like there's an old saying that Gabe Montoya said once that always stuck with me, and it's don't look at the numbers, look into the numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could tell me 50-0, 50-0 all day, and I'm not even saying that's not a good accomplishment per se. It is, right? But in my opinion, he lost to Castillo the first time. You know what I mean? So how different would things have been? How it, let's say the judges decided that night that you know what, I think this round goes to Castillo, not Floyd, and Castillo's the one announced the winner. Does that really make Floyd any less of a fighter? Like
Mm-hmm.
is he any less? It's still the same Mayweather. The same fight still happen. I'm assuming he would still win the rematch, right? Like everything would still be the same. It's just that he would have a loss on his record, right? So we can't put everything just on that. It's not just we got to really look deeper into it. I would say that Pacquiao, what he accomplished because of the amount of weight classes he did it in, right? In the way that he did it, and that's what I'm kind of leaning towards right now. But make no mistake about it, Floyd was definitely extremely talented, and what he did at 130 and 135 was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I even give him credit for his second run at 147. It was pretty decent. You know what I mean? So, but
I
I'll
was
give
frustrated with the
Pacquiao
second
this.
run. To be honest, I was frustrated with the second run because you had guys there like Margarito and Paul Williams, and even guys who we sort of forget now, like Clottey and Collazo. And you had guys that were ranked higher than the guys he was fighting. Like, I mean, you got to remember, Marcos Maidana gave him a tough time, but Marcos Maidana lost to Devin Alexander like a couple fights before that.
Yeah.
Robert Guerrero, I mean, that's a forgettable one right
Well,
there.
just to kind of finish with this, Pacquiao, like to me, fighting at the welterweight division right now would be equivalent. Like I said, the first thing I said at the start, like Mayweather fighting middleweights. Like it
Mhm.
would be that equivalent to me. If you look at the dimensions, if you look at where they started, or if you look at the weight classes that they fought on, you know what I mean. So that's what I'll say about that. And I think Floyd's always known that Pacquiao's a smaller guy, and he never like wanted to kind of concede to that. Which is why when they fought, he swore up and down he was lighter than Pacquiao, even though he didn't step on any scale to prove it. He said he was lighter than Pacquiao. Okay, he was lighter than he was at the scale, even though the dude was on IV, bro, to rehydrate.
Yeah. And look, I'm definitely not anti Mayweather. As much as people try to claim that, I'm not. Um, it's just there to me, there left a lot to be desired. It's like watching a great movie and it's great and it's great and it's building, and then all of a sudden it just doesn't climax. That's what Mayweather's career was to me. There was just so much talent there, so much talent. And you and I are old enough to remember the 130 and 135
He's
run. He
like the
was absolutely
Terminator
killing.
movies, right?
What's that?
He's like the Terminator movies. Like part one was really
Yeah,
good, 130, and then we had the Judgment Day, 135, and then after that, the other Terminator movies they're okay, but
I know. I know. So to me, Pacquiao's that movie that keeps building and building. It's like, doesn't look good right now, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's back. That's what that is to me, and that's how sort of part of how I rank the legacy. And I just keep going back to the names on the resume. It's how do you get Marquez 4 times, Barrera twice, Morales 3 times, along with all the other guys he fought in the lower weight classes. And oh, by the way, let's beat David Diaz in 135. Oh, by the way, I'm going to move up to 147 and beat De La Hoya, and then I'm going to have a whole nother run at 147. And by the way, I'm going to pick off a guy at
you know
154.
what though? I'll say this: like I feel like Pac Pacquiao could have had a much better run at 135, and it was a weight class kind of made for him in a way at one
Yeah,
point. Like I think he could have had a good run at 135. I think he should have fought the other Diaz's and Nate Campbell. That would have been epic.
he saw the
But
dollar
Mayweather,
sign at 147 though. De La Hoya,
yeah, and the same thing happened with Mayweather. Mayweather only had one fight
right?
against Gotti at 140, so they both had their weight class, but they didn't really like. They just beat one guy and then they just like left, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I feel the same way about Mayweather 140. Like Costa Sue was right there, brother. You know what I mean? Like, you could have fought Costa Sue, and I think that was a very winnable fight for him. But yeah, he went to 147. They wanted that Zab Judah fight. That's what it was. So what are you gonna do?
So officially, I'm trying to put you on a hot seat here. Who would be your
Yeah.
guy of the era? Or is there not a guy of the era? Do you just have multiple guys?
I
Because you
mean,
can do that too.
no. Like I think it's hard to say, but I did say I believe probably Manny Pacquiao.
And Mark, you would put. I mean, you can put Marquez on that list too. I mean, Marquez is the guy who fought a lot of guys.
Yeah, like Marquez, I would have to kind of put him in, like probably the best lightweight of the era. But you know, Marquez he's kind of he has like the role of like like a Joe Frazier. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like that's Marquez. You know,
Legend,
he's
but
known for being this rival of Manny Pacquiao, and you know, fair or unfair, that's what he's going to be known as in the history books. You know what I mean? And the same thing with Joe Frazier. Like his name comes up more when you talk about Ali. You know, he's that rival of Muhammad Ali. You know, they had that infamous trilogy. You know, and stuff like that. So
it's
you
interesting
know,
how that happens. Even with him knocking out Pacquiao, he's still seen as the rival. And I think that
well, the
that
reason
goes
for
to
that is because I mean he did lose to Bradley, and he lost some other fights. He lost to Chris John, like you know what I mean. So it just happens that he had a style, just like Frazier. He had a style that gave this particular fighter a lot of problems. You know what I mean?
and that goes to what we've said multiple times on our channel is don't get caught up in the triangle theory. It's like even if fighter A beats fighter B, that doesn't mean that fighter A has a greater legacy or is higher on the all-time pound for pound list than fighter B. Boxing is riddled. Boxing history is riddled with fighter A beating fighter B, but fighter B is ranked higher on the all-time list than fighter A. It's about what you
I
do
mean,
throughout your whole career.
let's get in a time machine. Go back to watching Frazier beat Ali in Madison Square Garden, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then just imagine watching this contender on the rise called George Foreman destroy Frazier. Like he just annihilated him, right?
Yeah.
It looked like a polar bear beating up a penguin, bro. That's what it looked like. And just imagine, oh, Ali is going to challenge George Foreman for the heavyweight championship of the world. I mean, just think about that. No wonder Ali was such a major underdog. You
I
know what I
know.
mean? Yet he comes out and what does he do? He beats Foreman, right? And then what do people say? Oh well, maybe it's because he had an off night when he fought Frazier. Yet they still had a trilogy. You know what I mean? Like that Thriller Manila, the third fight was still like a war. You know what I mean? So just because Frazier gave Ali all types of problems, right? And you know Foreman destroyed Frazier. It really didn't matter when it came to Ali Foreman. And I always use that example. It's the best one. There's other ones. There's Cali Pavlik, Tater, Hopkins.
Yeah.
You know, there's a whole lot. Like there's Junior Jones, Eric Morales, Barrera. You know, I mean, there's all types of examples. You know what I mean? But that's the one that most people know about, and that's that. You know.
Yeah. So I think we both go with Pacquiao for fighter of the era, but a lot out there. And just to wrap this up, this topic, I just worry about boxing right now that they're not giving. I agree with you that this era is talented, but they're not giving these talented guys the ability to shine. And it's on the fighters too, because the fighters should be demanding better fights, but to me, they look to be satisfied with getting big paydays and fighting mediocre opposition. So it's on the fighters too. It's on
It
the
is.
fighters. So look at Canelo, what he's doing. Look at Pacquiao, what he's doing. Look at Chocolatito, what he's doing. Look at Donaire, what he's doing. Donaire wins a big fight on a comeback, and he calls out the guy that he just lost to and says, I want him. I want to be undisputed because that's the only thing I haven't done yet in my career. That's greatness to me right there. And you have to pay a price to be great. And that's why it frustrates me when I hear stuff like what Malik Scott's saying about Deontay Wilder being 10 times more um, technical than Muhammad Ali and facing 10 times more obstacles outside the ring. It just frustrates me because Ali paid the ultimate price to do what he did in the ring. You have to go there to get your legacy and get on the top of these lists, right? And when you see comments like this, even if it's just trolling, man, it's disrespectful to the guys who laid the groundwork for the fighters today, right? And that's not me just trying to dump on Deontay Wilder. It's like, man, you got to show respect to these guys, to the fighters who paved the way, to the fighters who did it the right way, fighting Joe Frazier 3 times, fighting Ken Norton 3 times. Who the hell does that? Who the hell fights George Foreman in his prime? When you're past your prime, you fight George Foreman in his prime and beat him. Ali
Yep.
was a heavy dog in that fight. Heavy. You
I just
fight
explained
Larry
the scenario
Holmes.
to you guys. Like
He
for a
fought
minute, just
Larry Holmes well past his prime. I mean, this guy fought fighter after fighter after fighter. His 30th best win is better than Deontay Wilder's best win. It just is what it is. That's not
right.
me trying to talk down on Deontay Wilder.
Plus Calix. How many guys that worked their way up to be number one contender that Ali beat and cut him off from history, and we never would have known how good those guys would have been. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's just those guys, and we may not know them like that, but that was a thing. You know what I mean? And people lose sight of that. So
Yeah, man. But look, man, I appreciate you coming on tonight. Before we wrap this up, though, are we forgetting about Gennady Golovkin? I was watching y'all last night, and are we not showing respect to Gennady Golovkin at 160? Because your panel, man, your whole panel said that Golovkin's not top at 160. I wouldn't even put him as a
well,
dark horse at 160.
I
But
don't know.
you showed him some respect. I got to give you that.
Yeah, all right.
But are we forgetting about Golovkin? All right. It looks like he's on a comeback trail in 2021. He's got a fight in July. He's got a fight coming up in December. What do you think?
Well, yeah, look, first, just to everybody in chat, man, make sure you hit the like button, guys. If you're watching on your cell phone, hit that little X, right, to bring down the chat. It'll show the thumbs up. Hit that, and then you can press the bottom again, bring up the chat back up, hit that like button. Show that support, you know what I mean? And subscribe to Calix if you like the content, of course. But look, I got to be honest. It's just, I have to go by his last performance. You say it all the time, right? These guys don't fight enough for us. We could only go by what they gave us, and he didn't look so good in the last fight.
You're right.
And he didn't look. Look, I scored the Derevchenko fight for Triple G.
Mm-hmm.
Like I rewatched it several times. Sometimes I give it to Derevchenko, but most of the time I give it to Golovkin. And so it was close, but I just got to go by what I see. You know what I mean? And he's still a dark horse to me, and because he can, I still think he's capable of beating anybody in the division. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, the panel clean sweep for Jamal. Yeah, I was kind of surprised about that,
but until I see this guy, especially when you have a boxing era where guys are going longer in age, higher in age, and being successful, until I see this guy beaten at 160 convincingly, because you made a good argument last night. You could argue that Triple G has never lost a fight. You can make that argument. I wouldn't, because, and I don't think you wouldn't, but you can make the argument. But I had Canelo winning the second fight. I had Triple G winning the first fight. I thought it was split 115, 113, both ways in both fights. But I thought he won Danny Jacobs close. I thought he won Derevchenko close. And also, you have to throw in the fact that for years, at the early stages of Triple G's coming out on HBO, Sergio Martinez wouldn't fight him. Miguel Cotto forgot English when they asked him about Triple G. Canelo was kind of tiptoeing there, although I give Canelo...
Cotto was like A, B, C, D, E, F. F. Yeah.
Yeah, but Canelo was kind of iffy there, but Canelo stepped up after it wasn't that long. You got to give Canelo props for stepping up at 160 and finally fighting. Appreciate this, man. Y'all sub if y'all aren't subbed, and hit that like button, of course. But Triple G had a nice reign. I think his reign at middleweight is underrated because guys were favoring him or staying away from him, steering clear of him early. And you judge a fighter by how his peers in the division treat him. Like Terrence Crawford, guys, although promotional thing is weird, guys are staying away from him. So that tells me right there that Terrence Crawford is probably the best guy at 147 right now. Pacquiao seemed to be the only one who wanted to engage in talks with him. But Triple G had that same effect. So I see him coming back and having some success this year. I think he will beat Murata in December. And then it gets interesting again in 2022. It gets interesting. So I just think we can't throw the dirt on Triple G's grave yet. He's still there. He's
Well,
still
look,
there.
here's what I'll say. Look, if he still got it, he'll show it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It'll be better for Triple G. I'm just telling you right now to be the guy that pulls the upset than be the favorite, right?
Right.
So if people are saying like, hey, Jamal's the best, okay. If he like the best guy's gonna win anyway in the fight. You know what I mean? So if they make the fight happen and Triple G beats Jamal, I mean that's big. You know what I mean? That looks good on his resume, personally.
Yep.
So but the same theme we had yesterday was, despite how we feel, these guys aren't fighting each other, so we don't
Right.
really know. And
Same as
that's the key
135.
thing. We need them to fight. For all we know, Andre could beat all of them. Who knows? But they got to fight. You know what I mean?
Which is why we show respect to guys, and as fans, it's incumbent upon us. We
Yeah.
have to show respect, and that's what I always say on the channel. We have to show respect to the guys who challenge themselves. Pacquiao, Chocolatito, I throw out the names all the time. Canelo right now. Show respect to these guys and rank them higher in the rankings because they're continually challenging themselves. And because of that, they may look vulnerable at times, but it's easier to not look vulnerable when you're not fighting top competition.
Exactly.
It just is, man. So show these guys the proper respect. And Triple G will be back. He'll be back in the mix. But I just wanted to throw that out there. And just to wrap this up, man, look, Mayweather versus Logan Paul. Who you like in that fight, D-Style?
Mayweather late round stoppage.
In a fight that nobody wins, right?
In a fight where nobody wins. We all lose. You know what I mean? And
everybody loses.
And we have these weird fans out here talking about, oh, yeah, Floyd's going to walk out with a bag. Like, and none of y'all you're not getting that money. It's not your money.
He told you. He literally told you this is a
no,
bank.
But the celebrating that he's walking out with a bag, bro, like it's their bag. Like if Mayweather needs the bag, or like people don't understand that, like,
you can't share it.
It's his. You can't share it. It's his. You know what I mean?
It's his. Shout out to A-Rod in the chat. Go subscribe.
Worry about your bag. You go
worry about your bag. Look, when Mayweather beats Logan Paul or does whatever because there's no official winner, you still have bills, because this fight's on a Sunday night, by the way. So you still have bills on Monday morning to pay.
Is it? It's on Sunday?
It's on Sunday night, I believe.
The fuck?
Somebody can fact check me in the chat, but I think this is a Sunday night fight. I believe. Okay. So I don't know why, but I think they're going with the WWE sort of
it is,
vibe
you're
here.
Right.
Sunday night fight. So he's not sharing the bag with you. You still have to pay your bills yourself. So you can't celebrate about the bag. Like, this does nothing for his legacy. But I would stop short in saying this. I heard some people saying that this tarnishes Floyd's legacy. I don't know. I don't know if it does or not, but
it's not tarnishing, brother. But the only thing I want to say really quick, it's not that it's tarnishing. It's just that there's another all-time great right now doing great things, and we're comparing the two, and then it's naturally bringing up discussions like, hey, who's doing something more historic? And it's like, well, duh, Pacquiao. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, the dichotomy is there. Like, Pacquiao's still active. And would you have thought that 7 years ago when Mayweather beats Pacquiao, that Pacquiao would still be active, top 3 in his weight class, while Floyd's fighting a YouTuber?
Right.
To me, it's not a good perception. There's not good perception there, but we'll see what Logan Paul got. You think he's going to throw one of those uppercuts from the floor?
I guess. I mean, is he trying to hit him in the balls?
Dude, I'm telling you, like, I could hit mids better than Logan Paul. I don't know if I could beat Logan Paul in a fight. Maybe we'll find out one day. I don't know. Maybe I can leverage myself in there if I do enough videos.
Tell him you could beat him. Tell him you could beat him so they could challenge you and be like, hey, I'll prove you wrong. You're going to get 30% of the purse. Like, okay.
And look, if I get the bag, I'll share it with everybody in the chat. I'll actually share. But he's not going to knock me out throwing an uppercut from the floor. I can tell you that.
And the Hispanics causing panic will be in your corner, brother.
That's right. Look,
I'll be the cut man.
I'll have a Devin Haney type corner. I'll have two guys voicing. You can be in the corner right here.
Like giving you one instruction while he's saying something else?
Yeah, G-Funky can be outside of the ropes yelling something at me, and if Logan Paul hurts me, y'all both be yelling
Throw
stuff
the
at me.
right hand. No, throw the hook. You got to throw the hook. Hey, make sure you got on your front foot. I need you to get on your back foot, all right? Like, okay.
Watch the uppercut from the floor. That's a secret punch. As Ellie Seckback said, will this be the punch that gives Mayweather his first loss? And then Logan Paul throws an uppercut on the mitts from the floor.
Yeah.
Anybody who's ever been in a
something.
boxing gym, D-style, knows you do not throw an uppercut like that. You don't. You don't throw an uppercut from the floor.
He's a gamer. He must have gotten that shit from like Street Fighter or some shit. Like,
you
know what I mean? Like,
he threw the uppercut with his chin way up in the air. Everything exposed.
Bro, like, there's going to be so many, like, fighters could see openings. You know what I mean? There's going to be so many openings.
A-Rod said, do it for your people. Remember that? Ramirez, do it for your people. It's like, bro, give him some instructions.
Do it for your people. Get the fuck out of here, brother. To tell him to, like, not let go just because the ref said let go until he says break. You know, like, tell him something else.
And if y'all are in my corner, please don't give me that instruction because I don't even know where my people are. I'm mixed with like 80 different things. So
I'll be like, Calix, do it for the Mariners. Like, what? They need to win, bro. Like, they need to win big. You know.
Shout out to everybody in the chat. Logan is clueless. Jake got his ass beat in sparring. What if they do some and Jake distracts Floyd and Logan? That would be incredible. That's the type of stuff that I would. If that happened, I would actually wish that I bought the fight.
Nah, Leonard Allen.
If he walked in with the chair and just started beating Floyd, or if he did like a Roger Mayweather against Zab Judah in between rounds and just win at Floyd, that would be incredible. I would go for that. But I already told you what's gonna happen. He's gonna lightly knock out Logan Paul, and then Jake Paul's going to enter the ring after and say, I have to avenge my brother's loss. I have to do this for my family. And then he beats Tyrone Woodley, and then you got the Mayweather versus Jake Paul
We have
fight.
to talk about that fight another bit. I don't know if it's going to be Tyrone Woodley, but I got to think about it.
All right, man. D-Style, once again, man, salute. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody in the chat tonight. Successful show. And D-Style, everybody already knows, man, but tell them all your stuff.
Hey, just go to D-Style Boxing here on YouTube, subscribe, and we have Hispanic on Hispanic every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. You know, on G Funky Boxing, you could subscribe to him as well. You could find me on Uncensored, HCP Uncensored there, same time. And of course, I do the roundtable every Thursday on my channel as well. That's 8 p.m. Eastern time. Great stuff, man. Anything from YouTubers to a Russ Abner can show up. You know what I mean? Just to talk boxing.
Jake was crying, huh? Hilarious. This is a circus, man, and we just need to get past it.
Does one of his hair plugs fall out?
What's that?
Does a hair plug fall out?
Yeah, but I'll tell you this before we stop. As a bald man, Floyd's lining's looking pretty good, man. The hair plugs worked. They settled nice. Whatever he paid worked. And
maybe that's why he came back.
I might try to find out where his hair doctor's at, man, because that hairline is on point. I get that.
I got you rubbing your hands like, I got to do this.
I got to do this. But we just need to get past this circus act, get a break from it. Because
you look like that meme with the guy by the tree, that black guy. I got to find out where he did this.
But look, Shakur Stevenson,
don't worry about it.
Shakur Stevenson fighting in June. Lomachenko is back in June. I mean, we got a lot of good. Inoue, our guy Inoue is back in June. So we got a lot of positivity coming in June. So we just need to get past this, and then we'll get back to this. Look, yeah, you're right. My wife won't let that happen. So, all right, man, hit me up. Sub Calix Boxing 2.0. Instagram, I'm Calix Boxing 2.0. Twitter, I'm Calix Boxing 2. Man, y'all hit me up there. Y'all know where to get at me. Hit that sub button if you're not subbed already. I appreciate the chat, man. Y'all were on point tonight. Great job. Hope you enjoy your weekend, your Friday night. Don't get too drunk. And enjoy Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul, right?
Hell in a Cell. They're going to do it in Hell in a Cell.
That's right. Peace, man. God bless.